disrespect to Jim, but Jim's not even fucking close. The shit Jim says doesn't even make sense compared to what Nas has done for our culture.
The internet went wild again when Benzino snapped after fans dragged him for dissing Nas. Yes, again. What started as a few comments calling him delusional quickly escalated into a full-blown rant, with Benzino clapping back hard instead of letting it slide. In hip-hop, some names carry permanent weight, and Nas, yeah, he's one of them. Anytime his name pops up in a debate, you already know the temperature skyrockets. And Benzino didn't play it safe. He went all in, loud, emotional, defiant, making it crystal clear he wasn't backing down, no matter how heavy the backlash got.
Nas put in work. Nas's lyrics and what he stood for, whether it was from the streets or diving into the music that his father, was a part of jazz, black culture, to doing stuff with the Marleys, to just basically looking at what he went through and trying to get our people together. And y'all want to ruin that? Look, no disrespect to Jim, but Jim's not even fucking close. The shit Jim says doesn't even make sense compared to what Nas has done for our culture.
Fans didn't just disagree, they pushed back hard. They questioned Benzino's perspective, his timing, and why he refuses to move on. And in street culture, getting dismissed by the crowd cuts deeper than being challenged by an opponent. But Benzino didn't calm things down. He leaned all the way into the chaos. He fired shots at supporters and critics alike, turning what could have been a small moment into a full-blown spectacle. The streets noticed. It felt personal. This wasn't promo or playful trolling. It was frustration spilling over.
You want a narrative you want to paint. You still got to listen to me talking to you right now in 2025. What I did for Nas probably never been done for him in his life. He's never been that viral at all, ever. Ever. He's never been talked about like this ever in his life.
Now, has Nas reached out to you?
You did. The last time he was in some shit like this where people were comparing when him and Jay was beating on him. You heard? You did? Like, that, and I don't want to talk about other people's career, but let's just get to the semantics of it.
Have you spoken to Nas since the whole time?
Nas.
Okay.
I don't know Nas to have a conversation with him. You don't have a conversation, we can have that too and shit like that. You dig? Like, I don't really care.
One thing I did see you do, I've seen you do this.
What made this moment different? The rejection felt public. Social media moved as one, dragging him, clowning him, questioning his story. In hip-hop, once the crowd turns, it's nearly impossible to regain control. Benzino tried to fight back with volume and emotion, but emotion doesn't always win. You just get louder. This wasn't about bars or music anymore. It was about pride, relevance, and refusing to let the past stay buried. The energy? Familiar, but heavier, like watching the same conflict play out with higher stakes. And once that rant got rolling, there was no stopping it.
What the fuck have we done to ourselves and nobody's saying nothing about it? Y'all really like this shit? And now, right? Hip-hop. Let's go to hip-hop. This Jim Jones and Nas thing, right? I'm just going to use this as an example, but y'all are taking part in like really ruining the legacy of this fucking man. This man has a whole fucking legacy. This Jim Jones Nas shit wasn't even a debate. Okay, it gets cute at first, but it's getting out of control. It's getting way too disrespectful. And it's gonna cause irreparable damage to the culture. And let me tell you why. Nas is a fucking legend.
As the rant spread, the conversation blew up because Benzino didn't just go at Nas. He dragged Jim Jones into it, and that lit the fuse instantly. Jim's recent comments had already stirred the pot, and Benzino jumping in made it feel like old beefs were piling on top of new ones. In hip-hop, once multiple names get involved, the story stops being about one issue and turns into a tangled web of ego, history, and unfinished business. Fans questioned why Benzino felt the need to revisit this territory. To many, it looked like he was chasing relevance by clinging to names that still carry weight. In street logic, attaching yourself to legends without new receipts can come off as desperate. But Benzino rejected that completely. He framed his outburst as truth-telling, claiming the world wasn't ready for what he had to say. Only problem? That framing didn't land the way he hoped.
You can't do that. That's not cool, man. Everybody fucking knows that Jim Jones catalog ain't got nothing to do with Nas. Why are we even entertaining that? Every fucking post is somebody, well, you know, Jim is more relevant than Nas now. Well, get the fuck out of here with that, man. A lot of you people don't even know what the fuck you're talking about.
Instead of shifting opinions, Benzino's rant intensified criticism. People pointed out how often he circles back to the same targets. Repetition became the main talking point in hip-hop. Repeating the same beef without new angles weakens the message. Fans want evolution, not reruns. The louder Benzino got, the more the focus shifted from his claims to his delivery. The streets also noticed how emotional his responses sounded. Emotion isn't a flaw, but when it overrides clarity, it becomes ammunition for critics. Benzino's words came fast, layered with frustration, making it easier for people to dismiss his message entirely. Once that happens, control of the narrative slips away. Bringing Jim Jones into it complicated things even further. His name carries its own controversies and alliances, and referencing him felt like dragging extra energy into an already heated moment. That move confused some fans and irritated others. Instead of sharpening the argument, it scattered it. By now, this wasn't just a rant, it was a spiral. Each response created more reactions, and each reaction demanded another response. That cycle is dangerous online because it rewards escalation over restraint. Benzino showed no signs of slowing down. The deeper it went, the clearer it became. This wasn't about one diss, it was about legacy. Benzino has always struggled with how history remembers him, and moments like this expose that tension. In hip-hop, legacy is everything. Once the culture decides where you stand, changing that narrative is nearly impossible. His outburst felt like a fight against that reality. Fans weren't just rejecting his take, they were rejecting his framing entirely. They questioned why Nas still triggers such a reaction after all these years. To many, Nas represents consistency, respect, and growth. Challenging that image without overwhelming support is a losing battle. The streets rarely side with the loudest voice. They side with the one who's proven over time. This moment also highlighted how fan culture has changed. In the past, artists controlled narratives through interviews and music. Now, audiences respond instantly and collectively. Benzino ran headfirst into that wall. Every post got receipts, jokes, and pushback. The faster he responded, the faster the crowd reacted. The emotional tone became the story. Instead of debating his claims, people debated Benzino's mindset. That's a dangerous pivot. Once the conversation turns from what someone is saying to how they're saying it, credibility starts slipping. Benzino tried to reclaim control by doubling down, but doubling down only works when the crowd is already leaning your way. Dragging Jim Jones into the conversation again didn't help. It made the situation look scattered instead of focused. And in hip-hop, focus matters. A sharp point cuts deeper than a wide swing. And Benzino's wide swing? Yeah, it got attention, but not respect. By now, his rant had turned into a masterclass in how not to handle criticism. Instead of redirecting or reframing, he let frustration lead. And when frustration goes public, it becomes entertainment for the crowd, not persuasion. The streets were watching, but they weren't listening anymore. By the time the noise settled, this moment had cemented itself as another chapter in a long-running saga of unresolved beef and public fallout. Benzino didn't change minds, but he reminded everyone how fast old rivalries resurface when pride gets poked. The culture moved on quickly, but the clip lives forever, replayed, referenced, and dissected every time the topic comes up. This situation also showed just how unforgiving the internet can be. Once fans label a reaction delusional, shaking that tag is nearly impossible. Benzino tried to overpower it with volume, but volume doesn't equal authority. In hip-hop, authority comes from consistency and results, and the streets recognize that instantly. It also reinforced the hard truth. Dragging legends into current debates automatically shifts the balance. Names like Nas raise expectations immediately. Anything less than an airtight argument gets dismissed. Benzino learned that the hard way. And bringing Jim Jones into the mix, that blurred the message even more. Instead of strengthening his stance, it made the rant feel scattered. Hip-hop debates reward clarity, not chaos. Once chaos takes over, the crowd turns it into content. Moments like this show how fast old beefs flare back up when pride gets touched. In hip-hop, history never really stays in the past. One comment, one reaction, and years of tension rush back to the surface. That's why situations like this always hit harder than expected. What really stands out is how the crowd reacts today. Fans don't just listen, they judge in real time. Once the audience turns, flipping that energy back is almost impossible. Every response gets analyzed, clipped, and replayed. When emotion takes over, the internet shows no mercy. It also proves how risky it is to keep revisiting the same rivalries. Culture evolves, but old arguments don't always age well. What worked years ago doesn't always land the same way today. The streets respect growth, evolution, and knowing when to let things rest. Another takeaway? Mentioning respected names instantly raises the stakes, pulls certain legacies into a conversation, and expectations skyrocket. If your message isn't sharp and focused, it gets drowned out fast. Volume alone doesn't win battles anymore. Hip-hop has always been competitive, but the game is different now. Public reactions move faster than thought, and once emotions spill online, control disappears. That's when moments turn into spectacles instead of statements. At the end of the day, the streets decide what sticks. They don't reward frustration, they reward consistency. Every public moment becomes part of the record, whether someone likes it or not. If you stayed locked in through this entire breakdown, make sure to like the video and subscribe so you don't miss the next story the culture won't stop talking about.